Hey, I'm Attila with SOS, and welcome to a very special SOS ransomware report. You may not be aware of several high-profile ransomware attacks that have occurred recently in many of our local governments, such as Atlanta, Georgia, Cleveland, Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, and Albany, New York. These attacks have put businesses of all sizes on alert, and security companies, such as ours, are ramping up with a range of tools to better defend organizations of all sizes in these cyber wars. For starters, let's talk about Atlanta, Georgia. You may have seen this on the news how back in March of 2018, cyber criminals rendered several of Atlanta's key computer systems inaccessible and demanded a ransom of $51,000 in Bitcoin to unlock them. Of course, Atlanta officials refused to pay the ransom. However, more than a third of Atlanta's 424 software programs were taken offline or partially disabled during the attack, and more than 30% of the affected applications involved in Atlanta's services, including police and court systems. However, a confidential and privileged report was leaked to the Atlanta Journal and Channel 2 Action News, and it disclosed that Atlanta ransomware attack recovery costs may total as much as $17 million. The report cited roughly $6 million in existing contracts and $11 million in potential costs associated with the ransomware attack. Now moving on to Cleveland, Ohio, where Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, this past April, they battled a ransomware attack that knocked out some displays and disabled their email system. They only formally acknowledged the attack 6 days after city officials soft-pedaled the April 21st hijack as a technical malfunction. Now, the city, which disclosed the attack the next day, didn't admit that it was malware that caused the system problems until Thursday, April 25th. While the hackers engaged the city-owned airport, officials didn't engage the cyber kidnappers, and according to Airport Chief Robert Kennedy, the hackers never made a ransom demand. For now, the airport is safe, but only time will tell if they can keep the criminals at bay. Baltimore, Maryland has also had an interesting month. On May 7th, the city of Baltimore suffered a ransomware attack that knocked out the majority of the city's servers and some government applications. Critical Baltimore systems such as 911 and 311 were also affected, as the bad actors were able to get into those systems during a firewall maintenance window back in March. Now, a city spokesperson described this situation as serious, and hackers are demanding 13 Bitcoin, which sounds like a little, but it's nearly $80,000. That's to decrypt the files, and the city thus far does not intend to pay it. As of now, about 3 weeks later, over 10,000 city government computers are frozen. Between 200 to 300 closings have been delayed, as the city couldn't tell title insurers whether the sellers had any unpaid liens. And Baltimore's health department can't access the state network that helps them to warn the public when a bad batch of street drugs trigger overdoses. And the city's public works department can't generate new water bills for customers, which could mean residents will get unusually high bills once the problem is fixed. In a press conference, newly appointed Mayor Bernard Young said that he didn't know how long the affected systems would be down, nor did he specify how the malware had entered the city's network in the first place. He said that there is a backup system that is managed by their IT department, but they can't just go and restore the backups because they don't know how far back the virus goes. So for the time being, city workers are having to perform tasks manually. So if anyone wants to reach the city, the best way to do so is to pick up the plain old telephone and give them a call. The FBI is involved with the investigation, although restoring service is a painstaking process, and city officials have conceded that some systems will need to be completely rebuilt. The malware attack and resulting fallout suggests that the Maryland municipality did not have a proper cybersecurity and a disaster recovery plan in place. Now moving on to the city of Albany, New York, where last month they suffered a ransomware cyber attack that impacted some Albany Police Department systems, including scheduling and email applications that are accessed over the internet. Also, the attack apparently impacted computers in the patrol cars themselves. Now, it's important to note that Albany is the capital of New York. Roughly 100,000 people reside in the city, and more than 1 million people are in the immediate area. The mayor did not disclose the specific strain of ransomware, whether Albany lost any data, or if the city just ended up paying the ransom to the attackers. They're keeping this incident a bit on the down low for now. Now, these attacks are just the tip of the iceberg. For example, in April, in Augusta, Maine, they suffered a highly targeted malware attack that froze the city's entire network and forced the city center to close. Also in April, hackers stole roughly $498,000 from the city of Tallahassee, Florida's employee payroll system. And just a few weeks before that, in Jackson County, Georgia, officials paid criminals $400,000 after a cyber attack shut down the county's computer systems. Here's my takeaway. If anything, it seems like these events are escalating, with cities and counties becoming the focus of highly targeted attacks that affect us all. Although ransomware certainly remains a global problem, proactive organizations can leverage a mix of cybersecurity safeguards and best practices to mitigate the risks associated with such malware. So, for instance, patch management software can close down vulnerabilities that ransomware often exploits, essentially locking down these digital doors and windows that malware often targets. And several modern next-generation endpoint protection software platforms can detect and block most versions of ransomware. Backup recovery software coupled with a business continuity plan can rapidly restore data in the event of an attack. Third-party managed security companies, such as what we do here at SOS, can proactively monitor, manage, and mitigate these threats. If you have any questions about ransomware or have the need to better safeguard your organization, we can help. Stay safe out there.